Delta blues is, well, it's kind of, okay, it's hard for me to capture. It's a blues style with plenty of raw and unpolished moments, but often it's balanced with just a little bit of finesse. And there's a lot that guitarists can learn from it. There's a lot that I've learned from it beyond just notes on the fretboard and learning songs for my repertoire. When we dig in, we find unexpected ways that Delta makes us better players. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned, that we can learn from Delta blues, is less is more. One of my favorite books is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. The idea that he talks about in the book, Less But Better, really resonated with me, and I think that's one reason why I love Delta blues so much. Some of the tunes, they really aren't all that fancy, but they just say something powerful in what seems like the most direct way possible. We can hear examples of Less But Better in Delta blues guitar parts, like Kind-Hearted Woman Blues comes to mind, where it's kind of got this shuffle feeling, but we're not overtly doing the Sweet Home Chicago style shuffle. It's a no shuffle shuffle. Let's take a look at the part. Notice how the shuffle is in the chords and the melody. It's embedded in it, but it's not the usual pattern on the lower strings. This is a great example of getting the point across with less going on the guitar. And here's how to play that example. We're playing this in the key of A. It's a 12-bar blues, and we're going to play with a dead bass. So I'm going to pluck the beat with my thumb, and it's going to be the open fifth string for our A note. So everywhere that we're playing A, that's going to be my bass line, right? And then the chord voicing I'm going to use comes from this big A7 bar shape, but we make it really useful and add a few tricks just by converting it to this little miniature shape here. I like to think of it as a D chord. Just move down a string set to 4, 3, and 2, and then bring it up to the 5th fret. And it sounds great with that dead bass going over A. And you can do that little trick as well. Flatten the chord out by a half step. So go a fret down, and you can just play it and let it hang there. Sounds really good. Or use that as a way to move back up to the chord. 3, 4. And from time to time, pluck that open first string and let it ring. Sounds really cool. And notice that I'm sliding to connect these two positions. But you don't have to. Now, I want to show you a little lick which you could play a ton of different ways, and all it involves is getting your little finger to play the A note on the first string when you flattened out, right? So when we've gone to that half step low, we'll drop down a fret, work in that A note with the E. And if you hang out here and play that E flat at the 4th fret with the E ringing, you get some really cool bluesy tones there. You get some dissonance for sure. So I want you to have some fun with this. And really improvise and see what you can come up with using that. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm playing, right? Now, when we talk about this being a shuffle rhythm, it's still that dot, 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 dot. But it's not as obvious as this. Dot, 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 dot. We let letting the chord tones and even the melody kind of outline that shuffle feel more so than the bass. So this really does kind of strip away the busyness in the bass in favor for some air and nice and ringing chord tones. All right, we move through to the next chord and we'll play a D7, which here's your D7 shape. I don't need the first string for this part. And I'm going to play the bass as the F sharp, and I'm going to hook my thumb over to do it, but you don't have to. You could use another fingering. And listen to this part. When I play the chord tones on the offbeat, you can get a sense of that same shuffle thing happening. Right? It's da 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 versus straight time. All right? We move back to the A7 for some of those tricks that we already talked about. And then into an E, and we move the melody a little bit on the second string. It's hard to see, but my little finger plays the C sharp and then the D as I move to the open first string. D7 again, and then finally classic Robert Johnson style turnaround. So think about your playing, especially when you're improvising. How can you play less and say more? Or if you're writing a part, what could you strip away and leave only what's essential and make a bigger impact with less? Less but better, right? Combine this with the next lesson that I picked up from Delta Blues and you'll no doubt level up. The old Delta Blues recordings were completely in the moment. They had to be. There was no overdubs. Those records capture the moment, and to me you can feel that. And sometimes unexpected things happen in those moments. But when you're listening to one of those old records, you might not even notice that there's an extra beat tacked onto a measure or a half measure at the end of a guitar break just to help things settle in before the vocals start. You might not notice it because it kind of sounds natural. It sounds like it should be there. It was in the moment. I can't help but feel that if Robert Johnson were alive and cutting that album today, that a producer might fix that kind of thing in Pro Tools, but that to me would lose the in the moment feel. So Delta has taught me to quiet my overthinking, I'm guilty of that a lot, and be more present in the music. Even if an extra beat happens or a short measure happens, it happens and it can sound really natural and really cool. Notice how there's a moment in this example where the chord should change, but it doesn't. There's a bit of space added, and that might cause some issue if you're expecting a 4 count, and if you're trying to learn this by letting the music lead you, you're probably going to want to change chords there, but resist that temptation. Here's how to do it. We're going to use the same concepts from the previous example here, but when we get to the 4th measure, I'm going to add a couple of beats right before we go to the chord change. Let's see what that sounds like. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 1, 2. Now you could just count it as 6 beats, 6, 4 versus 4, 4, and 2, 4. It doesn't really matter. The idea there is I played a half a measure more to kind of set myself up before the chord change. And you might want to do that if you're getting ready to sing a line and you need to take a breath, or if you play a guitar lick that maybe goes too long. Of course, there's no such thing as a guitar lick that's too long if it's a good one, right? that extra space can give you some time to kind of finish up and glue the two parts together. So we're resisting that temptation for the chord change just to teach us that it's okay to put in a little extra space there, right? We've got to be more in the moment with our playing. And this is just one way that you can do that. It's okay if a lick doesn't fit neatly into a bar. And sometimes you just gotta shake things up. Chances are, when you think of Delta blues, you think of Robert Johnson, or my favorite, Charlie Patton. They are Delta blues, but they each have a little something in their recorded repertoire that might challenge your idea of Delta blues. Robert Johnson's They're Red Hot smacks of ragtime music, and so does Patton's Shake It and Break It. You get the feeling that these fun outlier songs were in their repertoire because they enjoyed playing them and people enjoyed hearing them. The lesson I learned from this wasn't on the fretboard at all. As a full-time guitar instructor, guitar is pretty much life, and I fell into the trap of learning just to get better, just to challenge myself, just to grow. And while that can be really good for progress and good for a season, I wasn't really balancing it with just simply having fun. And songs like these help snap me out of that. They didn't take themselves too seriously. And the weird thing is, just approaching the guitar with a mindset of having fun versus grinding out practice session after practice session, it actually helped me play better. The more fun I was having, the more I wanted to learn, and the more learning felt like just a true joy versus, feeling more like a chore. And my biggest leaps as a guitar player came after I changed my mindset. And I don't know where you are on your guitar journey, but maybe you needed to hear that. Maybe you can find some songs that just make you smile, learn them to the best of your ability, and just have fun with them. Yeah, there's work to learning guitar. We definitely can't ignore that, but keep this in mind. What we do, playing guitar, it's cool, it's fun, and it really is its own reward. So enjoy the journey, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, practice smart, have fun, and play on.